Hey everyone, and welcome to Game Reviews 411. Today we are diving into Mystery Case Files Fate's Carnival, also known as the 10th game in the Mystery Case Files series, released in late 2013. We've come a long way since then, as there are now 27 games in the series, but this game was released at a time when the Mystery Case Files series was still finding itself and switching developers every few years in doing so. I haven't found much in the way of reviews or a breakdown of this game online, so I figured what better place than Game Reviews 411 to do so. In this game, we return to the circus from the previous Mystery Case Files Madam Fate game. But is this return trip one worth taking for either new or old Mystery Case Files fans? Let's break down the game to find out. In Fate's Carnival, players take on the role of our very mysterious master detective, who revisits the site of a past investigation, the once vibrant carnival of Madam Fate. However, upon arrival, you discover the carnival has fallen into ruin, now haunted by an eerie presence. The ghost of Madam Fate herself appears, revealing that the detective has inherited her curse. To break it, you must rescue the trapped carnival performers while uncovering the dark ties between the carnival and Charles Dalamar, a character from past Ravenhurst games. Now by now, you probably recognize I'm throwing out some names like Madam Fate and Charles Dalamar. If this is your first Mystery Case Files experience, you're probably going to feel a little bit lost, as this game relies heavily on building from past storylines in the previous games. It's definitely a game for fans of the series, and newcomers may want to start with an earlier title to get full context. However, the story is fairly straightforward, so even if you don't have the background and don't know all the names and characters that are introduced in the game, you probably still can find some enjoyment in the gameplay itself. Now, the gameplay actually can manifest differently depending on how you select difficulty of the game. One thing that really stood out in this game was the ability to select your difficulty level at the start of the game. Now, that's not very unique from other titles in this series, but in this game, you get to choose from 5 different levels of difficulty, which is a lot more options than we've ever had before. And, interestingly enough, you're free to change these difficulty settings anytime during the gameplay, which is great if you're struggling or are really craving something a little bit more challenging. However, it does take away a little bit of the gravity of selecting your difficulty at the beginning of the game. Now, regardless of which difficulty level you select, the true gameplay mechanics of Fate's Carnival are remaining unchanged throughout. You are primarily traversing the variety of environments within the carnival, finding objects that can interact with other objects to then reveal puzzles or hidden object scenes. It was engaging, and I found myself consistently focused on figuring out what to do next throughout the game. However, I will say that sometimes the item usage felt a little nonsensical at times. And also, there's a new gameplay element in Fate's Carnival of Isis the cat. So Madam Fate gives you her cats to assist your adventure, and you can use Isis in certain scenes to go collect items that are too far away for you to reach. It just didn't really make sense why we had to add this gameplay element to Fate's Carnival. Additionally, later in the game, Isis gets stuck in a mirror, but then still seems to be present with you as you explore the carnival. It just provided another opportunity for the game to glitch and didn't quite make sense as a gameplay mechanic. I also have to slightly complain about the hotspots. The game requires you to select very specific spots when picking up items or using items, and that can be a little bit frustrating. This happened fairly frequently in the game, and would prove to be a rather frustrating element of the gameplay mechanics that I didn't see in previous Mystery Case Files games. Now, despite the frustrations of the gameplay shortcomings, In terms of visual environment, Fates Carnival does a really solid job with its carnival setting. The environments are atmospheric, and they're filled with creepy details that pull you into the eerie vibe of the carnival. The graphics aren't cutting edge by any means. Keep in mind this game was developed and released 12 years ago at the time of this review, but the environments do work for the game's tone. Mystery Case Files got rid of the live actors that they were employing from previous entries, which I think was ultimately a good decision. Now, sound design is a slightly different story. The background audio effects like creaking rides and birds in the night definitely help to set the mood, and they're definitely more prominent than the music, which is fairly intermittent throughout the game, to be kind. I just didn't feel like the environment or the fear factor was elevated by any of the audio choices in the game. If anything, it definitely makes the carnival feel abandoned and empty, but I don't necessarily know that that was the wisest choice to set the tension of the game. Now, before we wrap it up, I do have to applaud the length of Fates Carnival. This is not a short game. It will keep you busy for hours, and I found myself, in a good way, being surprised at how the game kept going on and on and on. It's a plus if you enjoy long mystery games. Overall, Mystery Case Files Fates Carnival has its share of highs and lows. The puzzles are varied and fun, but the frustratingly specific hotspots and the nonsensical item usage hold the puzzles back. The story is excellent for fans of the series, but it's probably not the best starting point for newcomers. The visuals do a solid job of setting the right atmosphere, but the audio decisions could have been more effective. The duration of the game is perfect for anyone who loves a long mystery to solve over the course of many hours or several days. So, based on all of this information, I'm giving Mystery Case Files Fates Carnival a 3.5 out of 5. It's a solid entry into the series that I really enjoyed playing, but it's certainly not without its frustrations and glitches. If you're a fan of the series, particularly Shadow Lake or maybe Dire Grove, then this entry is definitely worth checking out. But if you're new to the games and the words that I just threw out, you're like, what the heck are you talking about? Then this is definitely not where you want to start your experience with Mystery Case Files. And just like that, our time together is done. So have you heard of this game, played this game? Drop me a comment, let me know what you think. Or if this is the first time you're hearing about it, 12 years after its release, let me know what you think. With that being said, that's gonna wrap up this review. But I hope to see you again very soon here on Game Reviews 411.